Hello, welcome to FHE on the Road with Christine Stevenson. This podcast is designed to connect the people and the places from the past with your lives today, with 5-minute stories and facts from church history. Save these stories for when you are traveling through these areas to bring history to life. Okay, welcome back to FHE on the Road with Christine. Today I have a really awesome story about a catfish from the 1800s. I thought that this story was so incredible. I love learning about the miracles of God and sharing them. So hopefully you like it too. Just to give you some background on what was happening when this miracle occurred. Joseph Smith had revealed to the saints that the Lord would return to Missouri and the saints were supposed to gather in Missouri. So the saints had started to gather when the Missouri mobs and the Missouri people started getting pretty upset about things. There was a huge clash between the Missourians and the Latter-day Saints, as we know from all the stories. That's actually how I found this story, as I was reading about the big fight in Jackson County. And this is one of the stories that was kind of a side note to it. I love that our Heavenly Father answers our prayers in these sometimes simple and sometimes incredible ways. And I think that this miracle is so cool because it's simple and incredible. The saints had been kicked out of Jackson County, Missouri, and they gathered along the banks of the Missouri River and needed to ferry across the river to safety. But this group of saints had literally been run out of their homes. They had been kicked out by the mob men, and they were afraid they were going to die. So many of the saints that were along the Missouri River didn't have any money, nothing. And they didn't know how they were going to get across, to ferry across this river because it costs money. And they just didn't know what they were going to do. The prophet Joseph Smith told the saints that they should keep in groups or stay in groups together because it was safety in numbers. When they got to the banks of the Missouri River, so many people were there, and even with all the money that they could pull together, they did not have enough for everyone to cross. So then what are they going to do with the couple families that are not able to cross? And I think of this, I compare this to our Ward family. What would you do? You know these people and you love them, you're all in this together, and who do you leave? Do you leave the poorest? They were in a really tough situation. This is the coolest part. I love this story. I love the miracles of our Heavenly Father. So this was recorded by Mary Elizabeth Rawlings Lightner, and she's incredible. Listen for her name throughout church history. She recorded so many amazing, inspirational stories. So I've loved seeing her name pop up places. Mary Elizabeth Rawlings Lightner recorded, she said, 1 or 2 families must be left behind, and the fear was that if left, they would be killed. End of quote. The terror of being left behind to an angry, bloodthirsty mob would have made anyone weep. It would have been so hard. These are your neighbors. Who's going to get left behind? And it was scary. The Missouri mob was coming after them and they didn't know what they were going to do. So being left there alone on the banks of the Missouri River would have been so scary. Not giving up, some of the men had an idea to try to catch some fish from the river, hoping that the ferrymen would accept fish as payment and they would all be able to cross together and they wouldn't have to leave anyone behind. The men put their fishing lines in the river and they pulled up some small fish and a 14-pound catfish. That's a pretty exciting catch. And then this is another quote from Mary Elizabeth Rawlings. She said, quote, "On opening it, what was their astonishment to find 3 bright silver $half, just the amount needed to pay for taking their team over the river." End of quote. Isn't that so crazy? And then she goes on to say, "This was considered a miracle and caused great rejoicing among us." End of quote. I thought that this story was so incredible. I cannot believe that the fish had the amount of money that they needed in it to cross the river together, that no one had to be left behind. And it was just the right amount. What are the chances? And this reminds me of the story told in Matthew 17:24-27, when Peter finds the money in the fish to pay the tax collector. And it just reminds me of God's patterns, but just the idea that Heavenly Father knew exactly what these people needed. And he knew how scared they were. He knew where their hearts were. He knew and heard their prayers, and that catfish was an answer to their prayers. And I thought that was so incredible. But I love this quote from President Brigham Young. He says, "Miracles are not for the unbeliever. They are to console the saints and to strengthen and confirm the faith of those who love, fear, and serve God." And I just think it's so incredible that our Heavenly Father gives us miracles for us to reaffirm our faith in Him and our knowledge in Him that He gives us these miracles to help us throughout our struggles and throughout our days. Having faith allows us to see good things that happen in our lives as the work of God rather than coincidences or good luck. Recognizing a miracle is part of the miracle itself. I feel like it's just kind of a connection between us and our Heavenly Father when we can see those miracles. If we view life through the lens of faith in Jesus Christ, our eyes will be open to the many miracles all around us. And that catfish was such a miracle. And it reminds me of the song Miracles by Shauna Belt Edwards. The primary has been singing this a lot, and it's a beautiful song. I just want to read one of the verses from it. It says, Jesus walked upon the water. He stilled the storm and calmed the angry sea. With his hands he healed the leper. He made the lame walk and the blind to see. He fed 1,000 with a loaf or two of bread. And when the ruler's daughter died, he raised her from the dead. Jesus is a God of miracles. Nothing is at all impossible to him. But I know this, of all his miracles, the most incredible must be the miracle that rescues me. I love that our Heavenly Father continually rescues us. He does not leave us alone, and He'll help us through whatever trial. We just need to petition Him. It is so incredible. Anyways, so hopefully you like this story, The Catfish in Missouri. Hope you learned something. Thanks. Thank you for listening to FHE on the road today. We hope you enjoyed what you've heard. Please like, subscribe, and share with anyone who'd be interested in these stories. Thanks.